voice on screen? Those are attending in online. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you are getting my voice on screen. Those are attending in online. Is my voice is clear to all of you guys? Please confirm to me. All of you are getting my voice on screen. Right. All right, sir. Now check it what we completed in the last session. Okay. So in the last session, just we understand what exactly the meaning of an enterprise and an enterprise application. Then to prepare enterprise applications, what exactly the structure here we required, we need to use. How many layers here we have to provide to prepare an enterprise application, right? What exactly that enterprise applications architecture. Up to these points here we understand that. Okay. Then in that enterprise application development, we have three layers. What are the three layers here we have to prepare there? First one is user interface layer or presentation layer. Second one is business processing layer or business layer. Third one is what there? Data storage access layer, data storage and access layer, or what there? Persistence layer. These are the three layers which are available to prepare any enterprise application. I'm asking one question to you, now try to answer for it. Why we are discussing about these concepts now? What is the need of discussing this enterprise application, then architecture to prepare an enterprise application? Why? What is the requirement to discuss all these points now? Answer is very clear. I have to introduce Spring framework. If we want to introduce Spring framework, first we have to introduce what is a framework. To introduce what is a framework, we have to understand the types of applications. Where in the types of applications also mainly here we required what there? An enterprise application. Spring framework can be used to prepare web enterprise applications. So what is an enterprise application? How these enterprise applications are going to be designed? All the points here we have to understand. Because of that reason only here we are discussing about like what there? The layers, all the layers of like what there? Enterprise application. Tell me guys, there are given some points to you. User interface layer or presentation layer, here we understood. Tell me what exactly the requirement of this user interface layer or presentation layer, what you are having there. Now tell me, all of you know, that what exactly that user interface layer or presentation layer is available here. It will provide a starting point to the users in order to interact with the application. It will improve the look and feel of an enterprise applications. Look and feel, starting point, all these cache words that we have to remember. Next one, it is acting as an user interface between users and a server-side application in order to transfer data from users to the server-side applications and from server-side applications to the user. So that's why it is called as what their user interface. Next one, it will provide a very good environment to perform client-side data validations with JavaScript functions. It will provide a very good environment to specify different types of requests like get, post, options, put, head, delete, and so on. To prepare the user interface layer, we will use a separate logic, that is what their presentation logic. To prepare presentation logic, we will use the set of technologies like what their HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, AWT from core Java, but of course, outdated totally. Spring outdated. JSPs is related to like what their server side applications there. like and so on. These many things here we are able to use. Then after that, after completion of it, then what next one here? Business processing layer or business layer. Business processing layer, and then what next one? No, business layer. These are the, this is the second one here we have to understand. Yes, sir, got my point or not? Right. Before going to start our business processing layer, before providing this business processing layer or business layer, first of all, what is this business logic actually? What is business actually? At least we need to have one understanding, one point understand. We have to understand that one point. What is business actually? Then after that, we will think about business logic. Nothing else. The logic we are going to use to prepare a business implementation, that is called as what is the business logic. At least you need to understand what is a business, what is a business logic. Right. Observe carefully. I'm telling to you, it is heart of the enterprise application. It is what the heart of the enterprise application. Recognize this. Okay, it's the heart of the enterprise application. Next one, its main purpose is what there? It will provide very good environment to implement all business rules and regulations. All business rules and regulations. It will provide very good environment to implement all business rules and regulations which are required by the client really, or which are required by the client really. What exactly the real requirements are available for the client, that we are going to implement through this what their business layer. Don't worry, I'll explain now. Try to understand it clearly now. Simple example to everybody. Now try to understand it now. Durgasoft, for example. Durgasoft, how the business is going on here? Think of it. How business is going to be happen at Durgasoft here, for example. Understand it now. First of all, students are coming to Durgasoft. At Durgasoft, students are taking some inquiry at our front office. Inquiry is completed. Then they are interested to join for the courses. They went for the courses. How they have to join for the courses now is a very common thing, right? Then people have to pay the payment and our people will give some service. Understand it clearly. So this is going to be happen. All right. Now this is actual business which is going on here. But where some rules and regulations are available. What are the rules and regulations? No. If the course is Java, then the fee for that Java is like what there, say for example 30,000 full stack Java. If it is a full stack Python, say for example 15,000. If it is a full stack .NET, full stack UI, 30,000 for example. Understand it? What I'm telling you now. Depending on the course, some payment variation is available or not. These are business rules and regulations. These rules and regulations here we have to implement in our application. Understand my point, Kenu? Not only that, some example. For example, this year is an anniversary year for Durgasoft. Then Durgasoft wants to give some concession on their upcoming courses fees. Understand it clearly now. 50% is off on every upcoming course throughout the year, for example. So don't think it is a real actually. Some of you are seriously thinking about it. Why people are taking more money from us now? Example I'm telling there is a business rule. So Durgasoft is announcing that 50% is off in all the upcoming courses right from today as per the anniversary of Durgasoft. Because of this, for example, 25th anniversary. That's why then Durgasoft is giving this kind of opportunity, for example. If it is a case that rule must be implemented in our application or not. For example, if you are taking that online payments now, online courses registration if you are taking now, that rule we must implement in our application or not, in our durgasoft.com or not. That is a business rule that we implemented. Understand it, what I'm telling you. It's not common for everybody. It is specific to the client. It's specific to Durgasoft. Understand, guys, what I'm telling there? Durgasoft anniversary is available. So 50% off on all the courses. But don't go to the other institute. Don't ask the same kind of thing to other institute. This is specific to what there? Durgasoft. So this is the business of Durgasoft. This is the business rule of what there? Durgasoft. As you are the enterprise application developer, as you are implementing the business logic for Durgasoft, you have to recognize all these kind of rules and regulations. We have to implement all these rules and regulations in our application. This is the actual meaning of like what there? Business logic and business implementation. Yes, guys, all of you are getting clarity on this or not? Right, sir. No. So that's why I'm telling there it will provide very good environment to implement all business rules and regulations which are required by the client really. Right. Next one, to prepare business processing layer, we will use a separate logic called business logic. Separate logic here we are going to provide, that is what their business logic. Right, so now this is one point. Next one is what there. All right, to prepare business logic, we will use the components and technologies like what I'm telling here. We can understand clearly Java beans. Observe carefully. Java beans, service components, maybe there also a bit business logics here we are going to provide, but service components mainly for some other, but business logics we are going to be implemented here. Next one is what layer? DAOs, data access objects. Maybe depending on the architecture, I'm telling to you, we can use servlets also. More clearly, EJBs we are going to use, and so on and so on and so on. Some other components here we are able to use. Their business logics are going to be implemented. So like this, so many components here we are able to use. To prepare business logic, we will use the components and technologies like Java beans, service components, DAOs, maybe servlets. If you're not following MVC, we can use servlet also to prepare like what their business logics. It's not like following any MVC architecture, but we can use what their servlets to prepare business logics. Majorly, we are going to use what their Java beans. And some my point here, some model components, especially like what I'm telling there, EJBs, then what next one? No, model components and so on. There we are able to implement like what their business logics in general in our applications clearly. All right, sir. Now this is somewhat information about like what their business processing layer. How much accurate we are implementing that business processing layer, that much of accuracy we can see in our enterprise applications. So effective implementation of the business logic is required. Got my point or not? Say for example, in the business implementation, for example, in the user interface, we specified an option. What is that option there? For example, Durgasoft is giving an option. If you are the existed student of Durgasoft, then you will get 25% in the next upcoming course. For one next upcoming course, then we will get 25%. This is a rule, business rule. UI part is giving that option. UI part is giving that information to us. But internally business is not implemented. So what is the meaning of it now? Nobody will trust your enterprise application. Now user interface is writing that if you are the existed student, click on this particular checkbox. If you click on that particular checkbox, you will get 25% in off. Say for example, 10,000 is a course cost, 25% is off, 7,500 is the actual cost you have to pay. That is shown by UI. But internally, the business logic when you are implementing that particular role, but it is debiting 10,000 from your account now. What's the meaning of it now? Now accuracy is missing or not? Now it is doing some fraud thing with our what there developers with the students now. So now our application is not good here. So that's why effective implementation of the business logic will provide the feature for our enterprise applications. That accuracy level is very, very important here now. Of course, that everything that business rules and regulations are checked by testers. When we complete our development part, the testers will take care about it. In the application development, the testers are like what there? what we are able to say in the point of developers, testers are like what their villains. In the point of testers, no, developers are what their slaves. Things are going on in that way. There is a war between developer and tester. When development is completed, you'll give that developer component, that means product, to the testers. What testers are able to know, they will check right to bottom, top to bottom, functionality checkings are might be different test cases. They'll implement. If any small issue is coming there, again they will send back that code to the developer with the test case now. Then developer has to go for like what again modifications. Again they have to prepare like solution for the test case, and again they have to submit back to the tester. Again tester will check it now. Simple example I'm telling there. For example, if you prepare any simple in your understanding level, I'm telling there, if you prepare any application for example, APS RTC, for example, or TS RTC, simple example. We thought of it that a ticket booking module is completed and we send that module for testing. Okay, QA team. Then what QA team there? First of all, they will calculate Hyderabad to Vijayawada, for example. How many kilometers? No, 300 kilometers, for example. Cost of the ticket is what there? 700. That's okay. Up to that, it's okay, fine. That what testers are thinking, no? They will give source. That means source in the sense like what their dispatcher might be dispatcher like location. A dispatch location is just like what their startup point, Hyderabad. Then what next one? Their ending point is what there? Again, they will give Hyderabad. Then how many kilometers it has to show? 0 kilometers it has to show. Cost is what it has to show? Cost should be like what there? Then 0 cost. But at the same time, not a lot in any bus. Now, testers will think in this way. All corners they will check now. Maybe some different categories are available. How they are going to check? By having all these concepts there, they're able to check the total content here. Again, if any problems are coming, they'll send back the total code to what there to the developer. Developer has to work on it again. Going on anyway. Leave this one. So that functionality checkups could be done by testers, of course, but at the time of development also, developer has to understand what exactly the requirement and what we are going to implement, how to implement, whether it is running properly or not. At least unit checking, unit testing must be done by the developer there at a developer's location. Okay, fine. So accuracy is very important. That business rules and regulations are implemented in this like what there business processing layer or business layer, that we have to understand. Right guys, then after that, after completion of this, then what next one, you know, data storage and what next one, you know, access layer. Data storage and access layer. Data storage and access layer. Let's see this one clearly. All right, sir. Observe carefully. Data storage and access layer. What is the purpose of this data storage and access layer? What is its main intention? The main intention of data storage and access layer is to connect with the databases or storage areas or repositories, to connect with the databases and to perform database operations. That's the main intention of this particular data storage and access layer. The main intention of data storage and access layer is to connect with the databases and to perform database operations. Okay, right. So I think so. In this diagram, if you observe this, here we are going to take like what their databases. Now the databases are going to be connected with what their, that means the database are connected by one layer out of all the three layers. No, what layer it able to connect their data storage and access layer is able to connect with our database. Now in the diagram, if you want to show this, now here we can specify that. All right, sir. First, user can interact with what there. Now tell me, user interface layer. User interface layer will get data from what there, from the user. It will send the data to like what there business processing. Business processing will do some operations over the data. Then as part of business execution, it may send a data to the data storage and access layer. The data storage and access layer may interact with the database. Either it may store the data, or it may retrieve the data, or it may update the data, or it may delete the data, something else it able to perform, then whatever the result it is identifying with the database interaction, then it will send that what there that acknowledgement to what their business processing layer, and business processing layer is able to give that final information to like what their user interface layer. Now user interface layer is able to provide like what their the total final representation to like what their user. Understand my point or not? Say for example, a simple example, user registration page is available, registration form. First of all, user can access registration from user interface, where he will fill the data and he will what there click on the some button there. Automatically user interface will carry the data. The data will be given to the server side program. At server side program, the data will be provided to what their business processing. Now the data will be processed. Of course, internally some service layer, some other layers are also existed there, where the data validity and all the things are going to be checked. Then after that, data is okay, where business processing is going to be happen with that particular data. When business processing is completed, whenever business processing is completed, then the total data will be given to like what their data storage and access layer. Now the data storage and access layer will get the user data. The data is going to be stored into the database, and it will give some acknowledgement to the business processing, like what is the acknowledgement they know. Okay, that user data is stored successfully from the method calls only. Now the data will be given to the user presentation. No, presentation part will prepare one look and feel. That means one presentation part it able to prepare user registration success in a red color and some kind of borders and some kind of like look and feel it will create there. It will send the data to like what there to the user. Understand my point? Get the flow now. So which layer is responsible to connect with the databases and to perform database operations? No, data storage and access layer is responsible for interacting with what their databases clearly. Sir, all of you are getting it or not? That's okay, fine. Again, I'm telling there, if I talk about MVC, that all the layers, no, there some different layers are available. This is top level enterprise application architecture. Okay, fine. Next one is after completion of this, then what is the second point here I'm telling there? All right, sir. To prepare data storage and access layer, to prepare data storage and access layer, we will use a separate logic called persistence logic. We will use separate logic called as what there? Persistence logic. All right, so that's okay, fine. Next one is what there? Then after that, to prepare persistence logic in enterprise applications, we will use the technologies. We will use the technologies and tools like what are the various technologies here we are able to use to prepare this persistence logic in enterprise applications. Like we can use like what there JDBC, Java database connectivity. That is one of the tool to connect with our database there. Next one is like what there Hibernate we can use. Next one is like what there JPA. Understand my point here now? But all these things we are going to be provided with what there DAOs, data access object. Inside this we are able to prepare like what there some kind of DAOs components here we are able to provide there. Inside the DAOs only we are going to provide like what there all these many technologies clearly, and so on. So many things are existed here now. Majorly here JDBC, Hibernate, JPA. Next one is like what there EJB's entity beans are available. EJB's entity beans are existed here. Everybody understand my point here? EJB's what their entity beans and so on. So many things are existed here to prepare this persistence layer. Got it or not? Fine, sir. These are overall top view, top level layers of like what there an enterprise application. Right. Only 3 points I discussed up to now. What are the 3 points we completed here? What is an enterprise? What is an enterprise application? Then what next one here now? What exactly is an enterprise application architecture? These three things here we understood then. Next one is after completion of this, I'm asking to you, how many types of enterprise applications are available? In a Servlets and JSPs we understood. I think so yesterday we completed that point. Day before yesterday. How many types of enterprise applications are available? There are two types of enterprise applications. What are the two types of enterprise applications here? First one is like tell me web applications, and second one is what there distributed application. But I given one conclusion yesterday that effective enterprise application, if you want to prepare, there it should be the combination of web layer and distributed layer. Am I right or not? There it should be the combination of web layer and distributed layer. Got my point or not? So now both the combination only we are going to say what there an enterprise application. All right, sir. Now I want to ask one important interview question now at a fresher level. What is that question here? We are going to understand what are the differences between web applications and distributed applications. I think not required to discuss about this topic. In servlets and JSPs, we are having clarity on this, right? Anyway, for the sake of you, I want to get a copy of this total differences. No, I want to paste here for the sake of your reference here, but already I discussed about it. But one time, I'll give list of all the concepts here now. Just give a minute of time. Yeah, even including the diagram also I'm going to be provided here. By that we are able to understand it. Guys, then I'm asking this now, try to answer for it. Any of you are attending uh, completely as a new person for this Spring framework without attending that servlets and JSPs? No, only attending 8:30 class. Any of you are attending like that? Please raise your hands. Any of you are attending there only Spring framework? Okay, right. Good. Anyway, then this topic anyway I discussed it there, but again I'm trying to give some orientation or try to understand it now. All right, sir. Actually, just yesterday only I discussed about the point. All members are attending that class, sir. Just I'm going to give one-time repetition or try to understand it now. All right, sir. Now all of you observe carefully. What are the differences between web applications and distributed applications? Web application is a client-server application where the complete application logic is distributed at a single server mission, only. Best example I'm telling there, just wait. Distributed application is a client-server application where the complete application logic is distributed over multiple missions that are local mission and a remote mission. Up to this diagram here, there we can understand clearly. This is an enterprise application actually. Some student registration form I have taken there, Durgasoft.com, where servlets and JSPs that I have taken there, some component. No, of course, some other components also here we are going to use. Next one is what there here distributed layer I provided there, remote application, remote system and remote application here we provided, remote service we provided here. That should be like what there ICICI Bank, for example. So we want to perform the online transactions for the students. So we have taken the credit code number inside of what there student registration form, some with some other details also, but basic details here we provided. When student is clicked on submit button, request will go to what there Durgasoft.com. Now here a servlet will take that request. But what that servlet will do know that Durgasoft.com has to perform that transaction, credit code transaction it has to perform. To perform this credit code transaction, we need some banking services. Durgasoft is not having its own bank. So it must be depending on what there some other bank. Observe carefully. So Durgasoft has to be depending on some other bank, that is what their ICICI Bank. So ICICI Bank people are giving their remote service. No, Durgasoft is going to consume that remote service here. Durgasoft.com is having like what their servers and JSPs here. Now this ICICI Bank is having maybe a Java or maybe some other technology. This is actual requirement. Now observe carefully. A registration form Durgasoft.com up to this part is what their web layer. This is what their web layer. That application logic is available at which mission can know? Server mission only. Answer my point can know. But distributed application is what there? Durgasoft.com. Inside Durgasoft.com, either servlet or maybe some other Java component. Either servlet or some other Java component is acting as local application, and ICICI.com is acting as what their remote application there. Now here application logic is distributed over local mission and as well as what their remote mission can. So this is what their distributed type, distributed application logic. But this is what their web application can. Of course, in an enterprise application, both are available. But separately, if you think no, Web application in a sense, total application logic is available at the server machine only. No application logic is available at which machine, at our client. But in the case of distributed application, application logic is distributed over local machine and as well as like what their remote machine. This is a point I'm telling there. Okay, fine. Let's come for the next point here. All of you observe carefully. In web applications, client is fixed. What is the client? No, browser. Browser is acting as what their client in web applications. But in distributed applications, client is not fixed. It may be a normal Java program with main method, or it may be a geo application with an applet, or it may be a servlet, or it may be a JSP page, or it may be a framework application like what there, struts application, JSF application, or Spring application. You can understand this clearly. Next one after that. To prepare web applications, we have to use a set of technologies called web technologies. What are the various web technologies here? CGI, Servlets, JSPs, PHP, Perl. Similarly, to prepare distributed applications, we have a set of technologies called as what there? Distributed technologies. What are the distributed technologies? No, socket programming, RMI, Corba, EJBs, web services. Web services, the word it seems like what their web. Don't think about it as a web technology. It's a purely distributed technology. Purely distributed technology. If you observe this point here, diagram here, observe carefully. Durgasoft.com was prepared by using Java, where servlets we have used there, that is Java. But here ICSA.com is available. This is remote application, but there is no guarantee whether that ICSA.com, ICSA bank application is prepared on the basis of Java or not. It may be prepared on the basis of some other technology. It may not be on Java, it may be on some other technology. Means that our local application is in Java, our remote application is in what there, some other technology. But still we require communication between these two. Still we required like producing service and consuming service kind of approach there. Right, exactly. To establish communication between two technology applications. To establish communication between two technology standards, no, two technology standards applications, there we require to go for like what there, web services. There we need to go for what there, web services. These web services will be used in what part, distributed application development only. It will not be used in what there, web application development. Sir, all of you are getting my point or not? Right, sir, leave this one. Then after that, after completion of this, all right, sir, fourth difference I have given there, web applications are executed by both web servers and application servers. In general, web servers are providing environment for only web applications. Application servers are providing environment for what their both web applications and as well as what their distributed applications. So means that web applications are executed by both web servers and as well as like what their application servers. But distributed applications are executed by only application servers, not with what their web servers here. Next one after completion of this. All right, sir. Then what next one here? Web application is a collection of web components, where the web components are executed by the web containers like what there, servlet container, JSP container, and so on in the servers. Web application is a collection of web components like servlets, JSPs, and so on, where web components are executed by the web containers like what there, servlet container, JSP container, and so on in the servers. Distributed applications are a collection of distributed components like what there, Java beans, EJB components, and so on, where the distributed components are executed by the distributed containers like what there, EJB container inside the servers. Understand it clearly. Next one is web applications are mainly for static response and a little bit about what their dynamic response from servers. But the distributed applications are having main concentration on the communication between local machine and remote machine in order to consume remote services from local machine. Right, sir. Observe carefully. Then after that, then I've given one point here. Enterprise application is equal to like what there, web layer and a distributed layer, distributed programming. So this is what exactly the meaning of enterprise application. The simple demonstration point of view, I have taken that simple requirement. That information here I given clearly. Leave this point here. These are like what there, web application and distributed application content here now. Then after that, listen carefully, all of you know. Everybody understand this clearly. Next concepts are important for us. Try to observe carefully. To prepare web applications, again I'm asking this point to you, why I'm discussing all these concepts now, just to introduce Spring framework. Introducing Spring framework in the sense, first of all, I have to introduce framework. If I want to introduce framework, first of all, we need to have awareness on all these points. That's why I'm talking about like what there, all these concepts now. Understand my approach clearly. First of all, an enterprise application, enterprise applications architecture. Next one is the types of enterprise applications. Then after that, we are talking about like what there. Now understand it. To prepare web applications, we will use the following models. We will use the following models. First one is like what there, model 1 architecture, and the second one is model 2 architecture. Right, sir. Two modeled architectures are available to prepare web applications. Two architectures are available. Two modeled architectures are available. What are the two modeled architectures? No, first one is model 1 architecture, and second one is what there, model 2 architecture. First, we are going to understand like what there, model 1 web application architecture. What exactly this model 1 web application architecture? What we are able to understand there clearly now. Right, sir. All of you observe carefully. I'm going to explain this now. Right, sir. Observe carefully. In model 1 architecture, what's going to be happen? This is a client, for example. Right, sir. Now this is a server side. Here we are having database. This is a client, and this is like what I'm telling to you, server. Now this is like what I'm telling to you, database. Right, sir. In model 1 architecture, this is acting as controller. Now here we are going to use what there, a set of JSP pages, and here we are using like what there, a Java bean component. Java bean component. Now the Java bean component is having some business logic, then it is interacting with the database. These are the various components are existed. Now try to understand it now. First of all, when a client is submitting request to the server side application, who will take the requirement, who will take the request? No, controller will take the request. Here what is used as a controller? No, a JSP page is used as a controller. In model 1 architecture, not servlet directly. A JSP page is used as what there? A controller. Now this controller will interact with the model component, that is what is Java bean. Now here business logic is going to be executed. Part of the business logic, it's going to interact with what their database. It's going to interact with what their database. It's able to perform some database operations. Then after that, it is giving some, that means the model component is getting some results from the database, and then it will provide that results back to like what their controller. Here control is what there, a JSP page. No, now the JSP page is able to provide like what their response back to the respective client. Here we can see some response clearly. At a client, we are able to see like what there, some response. This is model 1 web application architecture. Again, now try to understand it. No, in model 1 web application architecture, a single page in the sense JSP page is acting as a controller. It will take the request. It will identify the model component in the form of a Java bean. It will execute the business logic which is available in Java bean. And part of executing that business logic, it will interact with what their database. Then after that, it able to perform some database operations. It able to give some acknowledgement to like what their viewport. Viewport is also like what they're the same JSP page now. then where it able to provide some presentation to like what there to the respective client. Now here we can think it is like what the request, and this is like what I'm telling to you, a response. Request and response here we are getting here. Finally, we are getting some response at our client mission. Right, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Now this is exactly the meaning of like what there model 1 architecture. See this? Understand this now? Now here I want to give some points about this model 1 architecture. Understand these points now. Point number 1. Observe carefully. In a model 1 architecture, we will use a JSP page as a controller and a viewport as a controller and a viewport. Okay, comma. We will use a Java bean as a model part to include business logic. To include what there? Business logic. That is point number 1. Here we can understand. Some other terminologies I'm telling to you. Now try to understand it clearly. Model 1 web application architecture. Model 1 web application architecture is also called observe carefully. Model 1 web application architecture is also called page centric architecture. Guys, observe carefully. What is the name here now? Page centric architecture. Page centric architecture. Why, sir? Why it is a page centric architecture? Why? Because a single JSP page is controlling the complete web application. A single JSP page is controlling the complete web application. Observe carefully. Not like any other component. A single JSP page is controlling the total web application. So because of that reason here we can call it as what there? Page centric architecture. Next one. Observe carefully. Another point here. Model 1 architecture. Model 1 web application architecture is also called JSP Front Architecture. JSP Front Architecture. Understand my point here? JSP Front Architecture. Why? Because, tell me guys, in this architecture, who is the first person to take our request from the client? No, a JSP page or not? This component who is in the front view to pick up the request, to process that request, who is there in the front view, in the front row, that component is called as front controller. The component is called as what there? Front controller. Of course, when we come for the Spring framework, controller is different, front controller is different. But in general, in the MVC based applications, no, controller in the sense like what there? Front controller only. Depends on framework to framework. High level MVC architecture is available, that is theory, but that is going to be implemented by number of frameworks people. As per their requirement, they are modifying MVC rules and regulations also. Understand my point here? As per the MVC, model view controller architecture is available. Here control in the sense like what their front controller. But when we go for Spring framework, no, front control is different and normal controller is different. In the controller, normal business logic is going to be happen. So that depends on the frameworks vendor, how they are implementing that MVC. Depending on that only the architectures are coming. But in the basic MVC architecture, controller is what their front controller only. Who is the front view person to take request from client and to process that request. So here a JSP page is acting as a controller. Not only controller, the JSP page is acting as what their front controller to take the request, to pick the request from client, to process that request clearly. That's why it is called as what their JSP front architecture. Model 1 web application architecture is what their JSP front architecture. Clear? Understand these points now. All right, so then after that, why? Because a single JSP page is acting as a front controller is acting as a front controller in order to take requests from clients and process that request That's it. So this is what exactly the point here we can understand clearly now. That's okay, guys. Next one after that. I'm going to talk about some points. Can I try to understand it now? All of you guys. All of you observe carefully. Everybody understand this point now. In a model 1 web application architecture, who is acting as controller and a viewport both? Who is acting as both a controller and viewport? Now tell me, a single JSP page or not? But do you have any separation between controller logic and presentation logic? Do you separate that if you are using a single JSP page? No. So this is somewhat tightly coupled design or not? This is somewhat what there tightly coupled design. So it is not much simple to manage it. It's somewhat tightly coupled design. So whenever tightly coupled design is available, no modularity, no reusability, no shareability. So many things are going to be happen here now. So anyway, the point is like what there in a model 1 now, web application architecture, there is no clear-cut separation between controller logic and view logic or presentation logic. Right, sir. This is one point here we can understand. Next one, guys, observe carefully. I am asking one question to you as per our today's discussion at morning time. All of you respond for me. Everybody respond for me. What is the main purpose of JSP pages? Now tell me. What is the main intention to introduce JSP pages? Now tell me. Come on. What is the main purpose here? To reduce Java code as much as possible in web applications. JSP wants to see the web applications without Java code. That's the actual intention of JSP. But unfortunately, that is not much simple to implement like this. It is not possible in web applications to implement like this. Get my point or not? So here that exact point I'm telling to you. Now tell me, all of you know understand this. What is a controller, sir? Now in general in applications, no controller is available. What exactly the responsibilities of the controller? No, not only taking the request, not only process that request. So many responsibilities are available. For a controller, so many responsibilities are available. I'm telling to you, if we have some modules in our web application, for every module there is a configuration file. That all the configuration files must be loaded by the controller. It has to make ready all the modules at the time of startup of our applications. If any processors are defined for each and every module, that processors must be make ready. Get my point or not? Like this, only some of the examples I'm telling there. Like this, so many responsibilities are available for controller. So many responsibilities are available for controller to control the web application. So to achieve all the controller responsibilities, no, JSP pages features are not sufficient. There we have to write some Java code. There we have to use what there? Some Java code. But writing Java code inside the JSP pages, no, is almost all against to the ethics of the JSPs. Writing Java code inside the JSPs is what there against to the ethics of the JSPs. So it is not at all suggestible. Because of that reason, model 1 web application architecture is not popular, is not providing good environment for our application development. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? So the point here, what I'm telling you, another point here, in web applications, all right, sir, if we use model 1 architecture, then we have to use a JSP page as a controller. Okay, its existed features are not sufficient. To achieve all the controller responsibilities. to achieve all the controller responsibilities, where we need to write Java code inside JSP pages to achieve controller responsibilities. It is against to the JSP rules and regulations. That's why limited support only it able to provide. The JSP base are providing what their limited support only, not 100% support for what their model 1 architecture. Why? Because its existed features are very limited. They are sufficient. They are not sufficient to achieve all the controller responsibilities. So because of that reason, we are not going to use like what there a single JSP base as a controller. It's not providing good environment for our application development. Yes, sir. All of you are getting my point or not? Two drawbacks I have given about this model 1 architecture. What are the two drawbacks? No, first one is what there is no clear cut separation between controller and presentation. And secondary is what there, then as a controller we are using a single JSP page. It is not sufficient. Its existed features are not sufficient to implement our application logic. Got my point or not? So to overcome this problem, we need to go for like what there some other alternative. That other alternative is like what there model 2 web application architecture. Some other alternative is what there model 2 web application architecture. Right guys, now let's observe carefully. Next we have to go for like what there model 2 web application architecture. Right sir, model 2 web application architecture. Everybody understand this clearly? What is this model 2 web application architecture actually? It's almost all, not almost all, it is exactly is like what there MVC architecture. Model 2 web application architecture is what there MVC architecture. Let's see this one. I think today I discussed about this MVC architecture. Have you remembered that? Yeah, this is MVC architecture. No, I want to go for small changes again. That viewport is also putting some data into the model component, just like some notifications. This is going to be happen. Okay. Now all of you observe carefully. This is MVC architecture. Now try to understand it clearly. At a server side, what we are having there controller. In MVC applications, it is very clear that a servlet should be used as what their controller. Now tell me all of you know, servlet is what there? Is a Java code or not? Come on guys, servlet is what there? It's a Java code, completely Java code. Okay, to achieve all controller responsibilities, the Java code is sufficient or not? That existed features of JSPs are not sufficient, but Java code is sufficient or not? So servlets are best suited for what their controller. It can achieve all the controller responsibilities. That's one point I'm telling you. Next one is, now tell me all of you guys. When request is coming to the controller, then front controller, what it able to do? No, it will take the request, it will identify the model component which has business logic, identifies that when model component is available with the business logic, then it will execute that business logic. Part of it, it will interact with the database, it able to perform database operations and getting some acknowledgement from what their database is. Then after that, after executing this business logic, controller will identify a particular viewport, it will forward request to a particular viewport. That viewport has to generate some response with a very good look and feel, then it has to generate some response back to like what their respective client. But while generating response now, it may require some data from the model component, some results of this model. Say for example, if it is a login success or login failure, some status value is available. That status value it able to get from what their model, and it able to prepare the presentation for it. The total presentation will be given to like what their respective client. So it can get some data from the model. In some situations, it able to give some notifications to the model component now. So finally, it able to generate some response back to like what their respective client. Now tell me guys, all of you know, in model 2 web application architecture, controller and viewport both are same or both are separated? Come on guys, both are separated or not? When both are separated, automatically here, loosely coupled design here, we are able to get or not? Loosely coupled design here, we are able to get or not? So this is an advantage with what there, like MVC, that means like what there, model 2, web application architecture. Next one, model component is available. There we are going to write some business logic related components and some database interaction components and all we are going to write inside like what there, model component here. That's okay, fine. Next one, apart from this, now tell me, a servlet is used as what there, controller. Next one is clear, there is a clear cut separation between controller and as well as like what their presentation partner. These two drawbacks are available with what their model 1, but which are solved in the case of this model 2 or not. That's enough. This is exactly the meaning of what their model 2 architecture. But one more point I'm telling to you, observe carefully. In model 2 web application architecture, a servlet is used as a controller or not? A servlet is used as a controller or not? That's why this architecture is called as servlet centric architecture. This architecture is called as what there? Servlet centric architecture. Everybody understand my point? Sir, all of you are following or not? And a single side, I'm talking about all the points now. Theory is okay, but we have to understand this much of theory to understand frameworks properly. How these frameworks are going to be available, just think about it. Don't think about the learning process like a core Java programming language. What we are thinking in the case of core Java, if any topic I want to start now, first of all, one line basic introduction. Next one is the syntax of that particular feature. Then after the syntax, one simple example, one program I will prepare. Finish, the topic is completed. That's it, not more than that in the case of core Java. Maybe in the case of JDBC, somewhat extra, somewhat more content we are discussing there. In servlets and JSPs also be somewhat extra. Understand my point now? But in the case of frameworks, first of all, we have to understand the architecture of the framework. Think of it. Framework is nothing but a product, not any programming language, even not a technology. Framework is not programming language, not a technology. It is what they're a product. Understand my point here now? Say for example, mobile phone is a product. Your mobile phone is available. But if you want to know something about this mobile phone, or if you want to do some work with this mobile phone, first we should know all features of this mobile phone or not. How it is working, then what are the input components which are required, at least some analysis is required or not. Understand my point here? Similarly, about to learn any product, we require top to bottom of the architecture of that product, then only we can understand it. So as part of understanding the top to bottom of the product, first we require some basic concepts. That basic concepts now I'm discussing here. Understand my point here? That basic concepts here we are discussing there. After completion of this modeled architecture, I can go for the concept, direct concept there. What is the requirement to go for frameworks? Simple question I'm going to ask there by the time. Max, on tomorrow, I'm going to ask that question there. What is that question there? To prepare applications. To prepare applications, already we have technologies. Servlets and JSPs or maybe EJBs or something else. Some technologies are available. Next one, to execute the applications, already we have what are the servers. WebLogic or maybe Tomcat or something else. Some servers are available. To speed up the program application development, we have some IDEs like Eclipse or NetBeans or maybe IntelliJ IDEA. So many IDEs are available. And to prepare the applications effectively, some modeled architectures are available, especially MVC design pattern is available. Some design patterns are existed. MVC architecture is available. Even though these many things are available to prepare our application, but still, what is the requirement to go for frameworks? Still, what is the need of these frameworks now? Exactly. There, one question will come there. By the time we are going to talk about it, we are going to see what is the need of that frameworks clearly. Previously, I given one example. Chapati mission, right? Without chapati mission, 10,000 chapatis if you want to prepare, how much work you are doing? But with chapati mission is available, how much it is simple to generate the 10,000 number of chapatis now. Without mission, 5 days of work. With mission, 1 day of work. Less time, more result. less time, more result, more productivity, more productivity. So these are the factors we are going to understand now. There we will discuss about more. But if you want to understand this particular question, we need to have awareness on like what there all these concepts. Now that's why I'm discussing about these points here now. Now anyway, now come for the points here. Now this is exactly the architecture. This is exactly the architecture about like what there model 2 web application architecture. Now let's see a few points here. In model 2 web application architecture, in a model 2 web application architecture, observe carefully, we will use a servlet as a controller and a set of JSP pages as a viewport. That is point number 1. Observe carefully. Next one is we will use a set of servlets as controller, comma, a set of JSP pages as viewport, and a set of business components as what their model. Right, sir. This is point number 1. Next one is what there. After this, another point I'm telling there. In model 2 web application architecture, we will use, or maybe a servlet is acting as front controller. A servlet is acting as front controller. So this architecture is called as servlet front architecture. This architecture is called as what there? Servlet front architecture. Next one, observe carefully. In model 2 web application architecture, a servlet is controlling the complete web application, So this architecture is also called servlet centric architecture. This architecture is also be called as what there? Servlet centric architecture. Servlet is a central component, so servlet centric architecture. Right. Observe carefully after this. Then apart from this, what another points here we have to understand there? Right, sir. Now in model 2 web application architecture, controller components and viewport are separated. Controller component and viewport are separated. So it will provide loosely coupled design to the applications. It will provide what there? Loosely coupled design for the applications. Right, sir. So this is about like what there. Another point here we are understanding clearly. Next one is in a model 2 architecture, a servlet is acting as controller. That is, a Java program is implementing, a Java program is performing all the controller activities. That means Java programs are having that capability, but JSPs are not having that capability. Understand my point clearly? Right, so these are the various advantages of like what there, this model, like model web application, model 2 architecture. Right, sir. Even some diagram here I'm giving there. It's simply like what there MVC architecture only. Got it or not? Right. All of you observe carefully. All right. Note kind of point I'm telling to you. Observe carefully. Most of the people are saying that Struts framework, JSF framework, and Spring framework all are using MVC directly, but it is somewhat wrong. Actually, the point is what there. Struts, JSF, Spring, Web MVC frameworks are designed on the top of Model 2 Web Application Architecture. They're designed on the top of what there? Model 2 Web Application Architecture, that is MVC architecture. Example for model 2 architecture is what there? MVC architecture. That's why people are saying these frameworks are designed on the top of what there? MVC architecture. But actual reason is what there? These frameworks are designed on the top of what there? Model 2 Web Application Architecture. Example for model 2 Web Application Architecture is what there? MVC architecture. That's why we are saying that these frameworks are designed on the top of like what there? MVC architecture. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? That's it, guys. Now this is exactly the meaning of like what there. All right, model 2 architecture, that is MVC. Right. Next one is, after understanding this particular topic there, another point is like what I'm telling to you, rules and regulations in MVC based web applications. Yeah, at least we are going to understand these rules and regulations also. Guys, observe carefully. MVC rules and regulations here, one time we have to understand, it will be useful for us. After completion of that, we are going to see the question, what is the requirement to go for frameworks. Okay, right. So now let me discuss about these concepts on tomorrow. Tomorrow I want to go for like what are the rules and regulations in MVC based web applications. Then after that we'll go for what are the frameworks introduction. After understanding the frameworks, now what is a framework, definitions for the frameworks, then advantages of the frameworks, how many types of frameworks are available, where is Spring framework in the types of frameworks now, what is the specialty with the Spring framework, one by one we are going to understand it clearly, right? Again I'm telling to you, first 1 week to 10 days of time total theory you have to bear that. Once you're understanding the ground information, then we will start programming in what their Spring framework. But up to that, we have to understand clearly all the introductory classes now, right? That's all, guys. That's all for today. Then tomorrow we'll see the remaining content. Thank you. Yeah, guys, the notes I have not shared so far. I need to create link for it. No, then just maybe tomorrow I will share the document to you guys. Don't worry. Tomorrow I will share the document. Then a Spring document I will share with you. Don't need to worry for it. As of now, I prepared. I did not prepare the link for it. Tomorrow I will prepare it and I will share that link to you. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, Jane, we will discuss there at night. Don't worry. The intentions wise, the difference is available, so you can understand it. Okay, fine. Thank you.